As you can see, you've also got a couple story problems to end 2-2 in the workbook. So let's take a look at question 19. It says on Monday, Gina ran 1 mile in 9.3 minutes. Her times for running 1 mile in each of the next 4 days relative to her time on Monday were -1 2/3, -1.45, -1.8, and -1 3/8 minutes. List these relative times in order from least to greatest. So here, again, just like we saw in the previous question, we've got a bunch of different formats, and you want to get these all in one format. So in this case, that means I probably don't want to go all decimal, because we've already said that that's going to be easier. Now, we really haven't dealt with anything today that's actually a mixed number, but this is not a big deal. With -1 2/3, what you're going to do is the 2 divided by 3 part on the calculator, which is going to spit out as 0.6 repeating. And then what you're going to do is, because this 1 is in front, you're just going to stick the 1 back in front. And you're going to do the same thing with the negative. Since the negative is in front, the negative stays in front. These middle two are both decimals already, so I really don't need to do anything with those. But the last one is not, so I'm going to have to do just a little bit of work there. Again, I'm going to do the same thing I did up in front. I'm going to do 3 divided by 8 on the calculator, which is going to give me 0.375, and then I'm going to stick that 1 in front of that, and the same is true for the negative. So it's -1.375, and we're going to put these in order from least to greatest. Now, I'm going to put a little number line down, not because I think you really need it, but just to make sure we do one thing right. Remember, we're in negatives on a number line. If it was positives, it would go 0, 1, 2 like you see here. But we're not. We're actually going kind of the opposite direction because that's what negatives do. So it's going to be -1, -2. All right? And the reason I'm pointing that out is because I want to make sure we do this correctly, because it's asking you to put times in order from least to greatest. And it's easy to make that mistake, especially sometimes when we flip over to negatives. Our mind doesn't always do that. Remember, the small numbers are out here to the left, and the bigger numbers are out here to the right. Okay, so if you're still having a little bit of problem ordering these in your mind, one of the other things that's helpful to do sometimes is to balance them, meaning give them the same number of things after the decimal. So since I see my longest one here is 3 after the decimal, I'm going to give everything 3 after the decimal. Now I know this, I cannot make this one exactly 3 after the decimal because it goes on, but I think it's still easier to see if I just write it out with a few 6's for a minute. Here we've got -1.450, and here I've got -1.800. And at this point, it might even help you a little bit more if I just kind of get rid of those decimals and those red numbers I just wrote for a second. Because we know what's going to happen here. If you're still not seeing it, let me change the number line a little bit. Let me add those zeros after my 1 and 2 so they kind of match up. All right, we know that this is actually -1, but I gave it everything 3 after the decimal. So I did the same thing here. Remember, what I did is I took that decimal and I went, let's erase it. Okay? Well, let's think about it. If I started at 1,000, -1,000, the next thing would be 1,100, then 1,200, 1,300. Well, here's that. So we know that's going to be the first one, the -1.375. Right, the next one would be that 1,400. Well, there's -1,450, so we know that one's next. Then 1,500, 1,600. Oh, there's -1,666. 1,700, 1,800. There's that. We've got that on the list. 1,900, 2,000. There you go. Again, the only difference is, though, now, if it's still bothering you a little bit, put those decimals back in. Put it after the 1 and the 2 on the number line, and between the 1 and the 8, and the 1 in the first 6, and the 1 in the first 3, and the 1 in the first 4. Now they look like what we started with. So now we just have to put these in order from least to greatest. So the smallest one was the -1.8. That was this one we wrote as 1,800. And then there was that 1666, which started off as negative 1 2/3. And then the 1450, which started off as negative 1.45. And then 1375, which started off as negative 1 3/8. And there you go. There's your numbers in order from least to greatest.